Yeah, so attendees have joined and we are now live. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sakshi Chauhan and I will be the host and moderator for this session today. Today, we are back with yet another informative panel discussion on the most awaited topic, what makes Canada the top study destination? I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our panelists to you. So today we have with us Ms. Megha Srivastav, Senior Recruitment Advisor, York University, Toronto, Mr. Rohan Rawat, International Market Strategist, South Asia, Georgian College, Canada, Mr. Jay Ahir, Marketing Manager, West, South India, University of Northern British Columbia, Mr. Jonas M. Ray, co-founder and managing partner, Harrington Housing, Toronto, Ms. Anu Mandral, AVP Overseas Indian HSBC Bank, and last but not the least, Mr. Saurabh Arora, founder and CEO, University Living. I welcome all of you to our panel discussion. Before moving on, I would like to brief you on the flow of the event. So for initial 45 minutes, we will be addressing the predetermined questions to our panelists, followed by a 15 minutes of live Q&A session. So Megha, my first question, I want to start with you. What, according to you, makes Canada the top study destination?
Thanks, Sakshi, and hello, everyone. First of all, just hope that you and your families are keeping safe in these challenging times. Would also like to take this opportunity to, thank University Living for giving York the opportunity to be a part of this initiative. And Sakshi, now to your question, which is like the main theme of this discussion today. I think Canada, no doubt, is the top international study destination today. And there's plenty to love about Canada, and the list can go on. I personally feel the fact that Canadian institutions provide a very high quality of education. The degrees are globally recognized, they are reputed. The faculty, the educators, the instructors that you have, they're all globally acclaimed. They bring to the classrooms their rich expertise, research, and experience. Also, the fact that Canada is ranked number 1 when it comes to quality of life. It's an excellent place not only to study, but also to live and work. One of the reasons I feel very strongly that Canada has become such a favorite amidst international students is because it welcomes students with open arms. And not only students, I think everyone. It's a very warm, multicultural, friendly country. When it comes to the safety aspect, which is one of the major factors that parents look into, I'm a mother of an 8-year-old daughter. I know maybe after 10 years, I would be looking for a study destination for her. My main factor would be safety. So when we talk about safety, Canada again is one of the safest destinations in the whole world. Last but not the least, I think the cost of living and the cost of studying in Canada, when we compare it to other English speaking countries, again, it's very competitive. So in my view, these are, a few of the reasons, Sakshi. Of course, the country provides you with an unmatched experience, whether it is education, whether it's in terms of its culture, climate, natural beauty. And I'm sure my other colleagues in the panel would have more pointers to add to this question.
Thank you, Megha. Yes, I completely agree with you. Rohan, my question to you is also the same. Would you like to add something to what Megha just said?
Yeah, thank you for the question, and hello everyone to all the participants and the fellow panelists. So I'm sure Megha has covered more details, but I would like to add few because we are a community college. So why students choose us and why student and parents, we have a lot of inquiries is also one of the point that the practical exposure in terms of education. So the programs are more practical oriented, and then yes, safety is one of the main aspect. And one again, this is also my favorite point, that the Canada is very welcoming. So they really welcome the student, they welcome the tourists, they welcome anyone who come. And also Canada is also one of a country wherein a student can see their future, because a lot of students nowadays want to settle abroad, right? To settle abroad, Canada is again one of the country which is immigration friendly. So student can think about not only spending their post-study work permit, but can think of settling in that country. So there goal does not only stop at the educational goal, but then they see their work goal and they can see their life goal settling down in the country. And the best part that, I think in last 2 years that we learned, again, one more thing about Canada is that the Canadian government is very, very supportive, especially towards the student. If you see the pandemic, a lot of students who faced issues with the job, the Canada government was supporting the student. There were a lot of bursary, not only by the government, but also by the community. Like we are from the Simcoe community, we are based in Barrie. So even the community came up and they were also helping the college to give bursary to the student. And this whole thing shows that Canada is a student-centric country, right? So they were the travel ban just happened a few weeks back. Before that, everything was happening smooth, and they have made the quarantine according to the government law so that students are safe and their citizens are also safe. So I think this is the beauty of Canada, that they respect the student and they really value the student, and that's why they are asking them to come and study in the country and settle down.
Yeah, thank you, Rohan. Jay, would you like to add something to the same thing? What makes Canada the top study destination for international students?
Sure. Firstly, hello everyone. I hope everyone is safe there. I guess most of the pointers are being told by my colleagues Megha and Rohan. But again, to add on something, yes, definitely cost of living, quality of education, and settlement options are one of the criteria students look at. But I think the major one is the government support again and the jobs they are getting over there. If you look at other Western countries, maybe let's call Australia or let's say New Zealand, right? You'll find very rare students, they'll be working in the same field they've studied. Here they get that opportunity to work in the same field they are getting their education in. So I guess this makes the biggest point because I've been there and I've been to the other side of the table as well. So I know how difficult it is to find the field job. But in Canada, it's quite easy. I have seen many students, many friends, they're all working in the same field. So again, that would make a big difference while selecting. Definitely safety, settlement, cost effective. That are all the options. Again, health insurance, we can say, the support government gives to the international students. Everything, if you tick mark the boxes, Canada would be, ticked in each and every boxes of the criteria student is looking at.
That's correct. That's correct, Jay. Jonas, my next question is to you. Since you have joined us right from Canada, so what exactly the situation in Canada is like? Are there any government guidelines you would like to inform our students about?
For sure, definitely. Before I go there, do you mind if I make a comment for the previous question that you asked for?
Definitely. Please go ahead.
Just an interesting perspective, maybe. I mean, they have told all the must told information, but as a company operating in different countries as well, I think this is always a relevant question, the cost of living. When a student is looking into whether to go Canada, what alternatives they have. Generally, it is either UK or the US. That's what we see. And cost of living in those countries is almost completely in line with the currency rate compared to Canada. So that makes Canada extra attractive to some students because budget is important for those students coming from Asia or Middle East or Latin America. So that's another, I think, important factor. And coming back to your question, right now, Canadian government has been struggling recently. What measures needs to be put in place to make sure students are coming here? As Rohan pointed out, they value students' participation in their schools. At the same time, keeping the country safe from new variants of virus and other health-related concerns. So they have strict policies, but they're still accepting students. The process for students who are coming here, the government website has clearly identified what steps needs to be taken. But if we have to summarize, there are 4 steps. One step is taking a PCR test for the prior to arriving to Canada within 72 hours that you have a negative test results. Upon your arrival, you will get another test PCR test at the airport. So you don't need to do anything for that. You will just take the test in the airport. And then you have to do a 3-day mandatory hotel quarantine. This is the one hurts the most the budget of the students, because you have to pay somewhere around $1,200 for 3 days hotel stay. This is mandatory. It's not gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna leave the airport, I'm gonna go home. No, they will guide you since your arrival to the gate until you go to your hotel. There is no way to leave the queue and go your own way. So you have to go to a hotel. You have to book prior to arrival, and you're gonna spend 3 days in a hotel. After 3 days, you will be transferred to your home. If your day 2 test is negative, you'll go to your home or the residence you booked, or a student dorm, or wherever, or family members apartment. They like you taking a private bathroom accommodation, preferably, or an entire apartment to yourself for that 14 days quarantine period. After 14 days, then you are free if your 8-day test result is negative. Sorry, I made it a little bit complicated, but there are steps that you will get and read on the government website.
Thank you, Jonas. Megha, I would like to understand from you. York University is situated in Toronto, a city which is so popular with international students. Why do you think Toronto is so popular with Indian students specifically?
Actually, that's a very good question. Toronto is one of the most favorite cities of international students, especially from India. It's the largest city in Canada. It's one of the most multicultural and the most cosmopolitan city in the whole world. And students just love it. I think also because of the fact that there's so much to do. If you're a foodie, there's so many restaurants, cafes, coffee shops that's serving cuisines from across the globe. If you're someone who's into arts, so many cultural festivals, so many performing art events happening all across the year in the city. If you're into sports, then that's the city to be in. Or if you're a nature lover like me, numerous walking trails and treks to be explored. Another very important thing about Toronto is that it's the business and financial hub of Canada. So, and most of the corporates, they have a headquarter in Toronto, thereby creating a lot of job and internship opportunities for students, in the city itself. Again, Toronto is very warm, very friendly. That's another reason why international students love it. Last but not the least, if we talk from the Indian context, the city has a very strong Indian community, which makes you feel closer to home. One of the reasons that York has become so popular over a period of years, one of the reasons why Indian students choose York is the location advantage. Both the campuses are located in Toronto, and that gives us a huge advantage. So that's what I would say about Toronto being so popular with international students.
Yeah, thank you, Megha. Saurabh, same question to you. Would you like to add something to what Megha just said? According to you, what makes Toronto so popular with Indian students?
Right. So this is kind of tricky for me, right? Because I mean, we're a platform which is multicultural. We manage, we cater and we cover across the globe, especially Europe, North America, APAC, and Canada is something which I don't know. I mean, there's some magnet towards Canada. It's just pushing me and just attracting us towards Canada, and that's how we started with this knowledge series about Canada. That's how we are getting so much of people on our platform asking us to help them with accommodation. And within Canada, if I talk about Toronto and Vancouver or probably Montreal, it's like choosing among the best, right? Because I mean, we as a company, University Living, we're a global platform, and we've been invited by the Canadian government to set up our base in Canada, right? And Toronto government has invited us. So because of that, I have a slight biasness towards Toronto, right? And of course, we all know that Toronto is very near to New York, so there's a there's a very good connectivity with US, right? So keeping that in mind, a bit biased, I'm giving this disclaimer that Toronto is it's a capital, economic and financial capital for Canada. The fact that it's very, very cosmopolitan. It's very like NYU or NYC, and the fact that I mean also the employment opportunities is comparatively are more in Toronto compared to other part of it. That doesn't mean that UBC or your British Columbia or Montreal for that matter it's not favorable. Yeah, so for me as of now Toronto is my choice.
Thank you, Saurabh. That was very well said. Rohan, my next question is to you. How is Georgian College prepared to welcome the upcoming set of students? Are there any timelines for the students to know about?
So our current intake was just started the May intake last week, and so we also have introduced our new campus in Toronto. That's ILAC Georgian, and a few of the students whose program is in person was supposed to come, but due to the travel ban, they have to take the flight from Dubai or especially from India, right? But otherwise, we are already well prepared and informed on our website about our September intake that we have declared it as a remote as well as in the hybrid model. So there are a few programs that require your the student to be in person in Canada to do the program, specifically the lab-based program like nursing, biotech or hospitality, culinary management, which require lab. Otherwise, all the other programs are remote and already declared on the website. So even student who is selecting the program currently for September, they go to the website, they check whether that program is in person or remote. So if the program is in remote, student do not have to submit the visa copy to start the program. So before they start the program, they just need to submit the visa confirmation that they have applied for the visa. And as we are the number one co-op college, we only prefer SDS application so that the student apply the visa under SDS because the visa success rate itself is 95%. So student is also sure on the part that yes, the chances of getting visa is higher. And then all the deadline and the deferral policies is already mentioned for September on the website. So we have already planned our intake and we are hopeful that the student are able to get right information through these session, and we keep conducting a lot of training session with our channel partners so that the student have all the awareness about all the changes. And then Georgian also have a Georgian Assist app where a lot of update goes, which is powered by Maple Assist on the app. That student keep receiving all the update that is coming, and if there is any important update, it will pop up as a notification on the phone.
Thank you, Rohan. That was very informative. Jay, I would like to gather your views on the same question. How is UNBC prepared to welcome the upcoming set of students?
Definitely. So if I talk about upcoming intake, we would say September would be the one. Now, considering the current scenario, it would be very difficult to say what would be the scenario in any of the countries, in next week. So we are being prepared of all the possible ways, if it's on campus. As of now, we have declared that September classes will be on campus. But again, depending on the situation, we might change it to hybrid or online sessions. So we are prepared for all three possibilities. And generally, all of the students are being informed accordingly. As Rohan rightly said, it would depend on the program, they're enrolled in. So yeah, but we are prepared for all three models, and considering the situation as the time comes nearby, we'll act on it.
Thank you, Jay. Jonas, my next question is to you. So what are the various type of accommodation options available in Canada? And what should be the criteria for an international student to choose the right kind of accommodation for themselves? I think you're on
Yes,
mute.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So very, very good question. The accommodation industry is very dynamic. We have seen a lot of changes in the last recent years. Traditionally, it used to be student dorm, or you rent your own traditional apartment, and you go with your landlord, and that generally requires a 1 year commitment and non-furnished, and you pay first month deposit, etc. And the other one is student dorm. So now, also thanks to university living and other platforms, we have seen an increase in midterm rentals. You rent a fully furnished room from a co-living company or off-campus housing company, and also homestay. So these are more four main accommodation types. So some comes with a cheaper budget, and the other one, if you go to a student dorm, probably you expect to pay a little bit more. So the main criteria would be the location, how central you would like to be. Of course, downtown area, when I talk about Toronto or Montreal, so it's even in Vancouver, Jay will probably agree, the rent prices will go skyrocket. And if you go to neighboring locations, so you expect to pay less. So those are the main factors. If you would like to make friends and be with your like-minded people, I would suggest a co-living company or maybe student dorm would be a good option. If you would like to save on the budget as well, then co-living to me sounds like the best option. And as an upcoming student, what I would do, go to universityliving.com and see what the options, and you can compare the best. That's for myself as well. Like if I would like to compare those criteria, I will do the same. I will go to University Living website and check the price or other online platforms to see what are pros and cons. And for a reason, we have seen a 5,000% increase towards booking co-living companies, and there's a reason. It's getting very popular, and that's going to be my suggestion for upcoming students to check.
Thank you, Jonas. Megha, my next question is to you. We all understand that career preparation and success both plays a very important role in a student's education. So how does York University support students in this regard?
So Sakshi, one of the USPs of York has been the way it has supported its students, always when it comes to career preparation and career success. So we have a very dedicated career center that supports these students all throughout their education at York, and also up to 2 years after they graduate from the university. And a series of services, is something that the center looks into. So right from helping students to prepare your resume in a Canadian style, or organizing career development workshops, like how to prepare a professional profile on LinkedIn, professional etiquette, etiquettes related workshops. The center organizes that. It also organizes a series of career fairs and networking activities on the campus as well. Now, since last year, of course, these fairs and these activities are getting organized on the virtual platform, but these have not stopped. So this is something that the university has been doing continuously. The center also makes the job listings accessible to the students, which is something which is very, very important, especially for our international students. One of the very interesting features about this particular center is also that it has some very unique connect programs with the alumni. And one of those programs that I personally really like is the TASTE program, wherein the York alumni would take the current students out for a lunch to discuss professional careers and what kind of opportunities that are there. So there's a very strong support when it comes to career development. And like I said, that's one of the most important features about the university.
Well said, Megha. Rohan, I would like to understand from you, during the last semester, there are generally many career fairs and networking events held for students. So how is Georgian managing career guidance for this year?
So I think, again, Georgian is known for the co-op. So we are known for our employer partners. So we have around 6,200 employer partners, which are our panel. And we are the #1 co-op college of Ontario. That means we are a college wherein most of our graduates are able to find the job in the similar field within the first 6 months. Just, the Jay was telling that, if that student are able to find the job on the same topic, on the same, field that they have educated. So we are one of them, and all these fairs are also happening online. And then we have our student portal. Plus, we also have our peer mentoring service, Co-op and Career Center Hub, which is accessible by the student online also. So they can book an appointment and they can start with the peer mentoring, or they can go for career and co-op center. We also help them for resume making, cover letters. So all these help is provided. So there is a difference there, because some programs are co-op and other programs are non-co-op. Not all the programs are co-op. So all these facilities are available to all the students, irrespective whether the program is co-op or non-co-op. And the mentor is given to each of the departments so that student can go discuss and get to know more about the opportunities. And most of our faculty come with the industry experience. So they are very well connected with the industry. They help the student for networking, and all these employer in the portal help the student to find the job.
Thank you, Rohan. Jay, my question is same for you as well. So how is UNBC managing career guidance for students this year?
Definitely. So we do have a career center at UNBC where, as Mega explained and Rohan explained, they are getting guidance on how to make resumes, cover letters, mock interviews, and also, paid co-op programs are available for some of the programs, obviously, right? And with career fairs, every year we have two career fairs where more than like 50 to 60 employers are participating. This year, we did one in March. It was a huge success. That was, however, done virtually. But hopefully, we are expecting next career fair to be on campus, face to face. It is what as it was last year, last year, and yeah. So basically, we have a very good employment ratio as well. We have a record that 87% of our students are able to find the job within 3 months of the graduation. So that's something, support has been given by Career Center, and we also have very small culture. We do recruit very limited number of students, and we make sure they are given personalized attention, on each and every factors, may it be a career factor, may it be anything help in regards to academics or anything.
Thank you so much, Jay. Saurabh, my next question is to you. Can you talk a little bit about student life in Canada and what are the various benefits a student can avail?
Right. So I will try to turn the table, right? And I will. I mean, of course, it's not a live Q&A. Otherwise, would love to make it more engaging. I mean, why any parents or student wants to go abroad or wants to go to Canada, right? Most importantly, is the quality of life, which Mega, Jay, Rohan been talking about, right? John is already there, right? The second is employability, right? We all know, how like they still, there's still lots of jobs. There are high employment opportunities in Canada. Canada government is very supportive, and we all seen in last 2 years, especially how they have supported the citizens, right? Then the third is the affordability, right? I mean, a good university in Canada, you can get a good course between 15,000 to probably 30 or 40,000 Canadian dollar, which is still not that expensive compared to US or other part of the globe, right? Then you have a postgraduate visa program which government provide everyone, and not for, I mean, there's no, and they are very stable in that. There are lots of countries who announce it and then they close it, right? They're very committed. Government is very committed there, right? Then the quality of air is very good in Canada. I mean, I can talk because I'm staying in Delhi. I can talk about the quality of air. Again, I'm a very attached to my country. But if air and oxygen is not sufficient, we need to think, right? And again, probably I'm a very apolitical person, so I don't want to mince my words and be very polite to it. The situation, we all know it, right? Then I mean, in Canada there is 1 million international students, 1 million Indian citizens in Canada. So the tribe is there, right? Out of which 220,000 are international students, Indian international students in Canada, right? So it's a very beautiful mix that you will not be only studying or sharing your apartments with Indian students. You have cultural diversity. At the same time, you have someone who probably can cook butter chicken or a chapati together, right? So you get mix of both the world, right? Apart from that, you can work there. The government allow you to work part-time when you're studying 20 hours a week. So all these things makes Canada and overall the student life quite exciting and quite affordable, along with creating a learning value.
Yeah, thank you, Saurabh. Jonas, I would like to understand from you, during the prevailing uncertainty, are there any COVID cancellation policies for students who are not able to travel to Canada even after booking their accommodations?
This is a very common question, actually, and very relevant in terms of students who are looking forward to coming to Canada. That's one thing they should be very careful about. Whatever accommodation they are taking, first thing they have to make sure, because nothing is certain. Like we have seen more uncertainties than any other time during COVID. And when personally we have a booking, we always consider whether students will be able to make it here. And for those students who are coming, whatever accommodation they're choosing, make sure to read their cancellation policy. If you are renting from a traditional landlord, don't expect any cancellation policy. You will be asked to pay your rent until the end of the term, even though you haven't been to the country, and you don't want to be in a debt before coming to a foreign country. So you got to make sure looking into those cancellation policies. And I know some accommodation providers, they have we charge 1 year or one semester upfront. They have not refunded some students, and I know ongoing legal action from students against those accommodation providers. So they have to be careful about this. I can only speak for our company. What we did is, if a student is not able to come due to COVID restrictions, we waived the contract lease agreement, and we do not ask those rent payments for the time period they booked the accommodation, and their secure deposit is credited back to them. That's what our policy right now. But that's very, very relevant and important question. You don't want to lose, because for foreign students, maybe it's a small amount here, a couple $100, $1,000, but for those students making savings their entire life and who are looking to use that savings for their stay here. Maybe I'm talking a lot from budget perspective, but I know it's important for students. So just make sure you read the cancellation policies beforehand.
Thank you so much, Jonas. Jonas, adding to my previous question, so would you like to highlight a little bit on the safety measures and social distancing measures being taken by Harrington Housing?
Sure. The difference between our accommodation and homestay is that you are literally co-living with other roommates. So you will be in an apartment where maybe there's a one bathroom and you are 3 roommates. So we gotta make sure everyone is safe, and for everyone's safety, everyone individually has to make sure not only measures for themselves but for other roommates as well. So if you have any symptoms or anything, we expect you to coordinate with us so that we can transfer it to a safer place and we can get you tested, etc. But other than that, all our buildings are big high rises. That means you're more maybe exposed to than other a single house in the suburbs of Canada. So we are in a maybe 1,000 other people are living in the building. It's a sky rise, and we make sure students are wearing masks in the hallways, and they're not at least in the common areas, in the gym area, in the public library area in the building, etc., study room or game room. We make sure they follow the guidelines. For each apartment, for each building, we have different rules. But long story short, we have those measures, and we are sending students a long COVID measures plan. So I don't want to overwhelm with those information, but they got to follow those guidelines. And before each move-in, we make sure every upcoming student fills up the COVID questionnaire. Have you tested positive in the last 14 days? Do you have cough? Do you have those symptoms, well-known COVID symptoms? To make sure we're not bringing a new student to already safe 2 students, So making sure that's a challenge for us. We have been doing well until today, thanks to the cooperation by the students, but those are the general measures. And in public areas, of course, we got to follow government guidelines. So right now, as of now, in the grocery stores, you can only buy essential material. So if you buy a non-essential grocery shopping, so the barcode, the scan will not read. So that those type of measures are still in place. And if you would like to buy outfit or clothes, you will not be able to until June 2nd in Ontario. I don't want to speak for other provinces. Every province has their own policies, but Canada is still strict, and the vaccination rate is almost 50% right now. What we saw in other countries such as United Kingdom and the US, where vaccination rates are higher, after 50%, you see a dramatic, radical decrease in the daily cases of COVID. So that's what we're going to see very soon in Canada. And I don't expect Canada to close furthermore, but we will see phase by phase opening, and June 2nd is the first phase where we will have at least open restaurants will open in a partial capacity, and then maybe by fall semester, September, if they decide to open the schools, we may see even more opening.
Thank you so much, Jonas. Megha, I would like you to talk about any special initiatives that York has taken to support the students during these unprecedented times.
Absolutely, Sakshi. I think it's been a testing time, especially for the students and parents. And I also feel that, and I think Rohan and Jay would agree with me that these have been extremely challenging times, even for all of us, and also for the respective institutions that we represent. I think the one of the major thing that all of us have done, not only York for that matter, that transition from in-person to online learning, that's been like one of the major contributions in a way, and also ensuring that it's done in a smooth manner, and at the same time maintaining that constant channel of communication with the students. And because, and I can say this very confidently because I've seen all my colleagues from other Canadian institutions engaging actively with students. Now when we talk about York for that matter, there always has been a constant channel of communication with the students, whether it's through our social media platforms, whether it's through the emailers that are going in, virtual orientations, information sessions, one-to-one Zoom calls with the students and the families. I think all of us have been doing that. Another very important thing is, of course, which again, not only York, all other institutions are also doing, is providing high quality remote learning opportunities to students. I think that has been one of the major supports that have been provided by Canadian institutions to students. Talking particularly about York again, we were one of the first Canadian institutions to get a COVID readiness plan approved by the government of Canada. We are also taking care of, we've announced that we're going to be taking care of the expenses involved in the 14-day quarantine, plan for especially for the incoming undergrad students. We very recently announced and we waived off the admission requirements from the offer letters of conditionally admitted Indian students who have been impacted by the examination delay and cancellation. There's also an additional support that we're going to be providing to international students. So if you're a student and you've applied for a study permit and it's got refused, you can always get in touch with the immigration specialist at York. They would guide you and they would help you to file a second application. In case if your study permit application gets refused again, then you are definitely eligible to get a tuition refunds, if you apply by the set deadlines. Now, this is again an initiative that's gathering a lot of appreciation, from the students and the parents again. We also have launched our YU York University START program. We call it the YU START program. It's a new transition program, which is online. It is basically for our incoming undergrad students and preparing them in advance for the campus life, for the kind of student services support system that's available and the resources. Students who are registering for this particular program, it's free of cost for the students who've applied and who are looking at York for the upcoming intakes. So you can take up academic modules in advance. You can attend a series of online webinars. You can connect with your peer mentors, and you can also connect with the faculty and your classmates. So there's a lot that we've been doing in order to support students during these challenging times. But I think the most important element has been maintaining that communication channel, which I think is very, very important.
Thank you, Megha. Very well said. Rohan, my next question is to you. Our audience would like to also understand the fee structure of Canadian education. Which are the most sought after courses, the most expensive ones, the types and the criteria for various financial aid programs?
I'll begin with the courses. So there is a difference between university and college. So most of the colleges are more economical and more of co-op and more practical based. That is a basic difference between university and a college. And because we are government funded, we are a community college, so we are funded by the government. So our average fees is somewhere around $15,000 to $18,000 in a year, depending on the program. Few programs are close to $20,000 to $23,000, like food and nutrition management, which is a 3-semester program in 1 year of a graduate program. Or there could be a program like heating and refrigeration or nursing program, which are lab-based program. So the co-op program is little expensive than the non-co-op program. And then so if you talk about most expensive will be the dental assisting program because that's more lab and more high in demand. And then your second question was on the criteria, right?
Yes, Rohan, that's correct.
So on an average, we require minimum 55 to 60% to apply any of our diploma or advanced diploma or a graduate certificate. But it will depend from program to program. For example, in nursing, we require 80%. And for pharmacy, we require 70. So it will depend from program to program. But in general, 55 to 60% is good. As we accept only SDS category application, that means we only accept IELTS to file the visa. Otherwise, student can take admission looking at the pandemic on the basis of Duolingo, because we understand that because of the pandemic, the IELTS centers are closed. So we only accept IELTS indicator, IELTS and Duolingo. And average score for Duolingo is 105 to 110 for advanced diploma and diploma, and 125 for a graduate certificate. And IELTS will be 6.5, minimum 6 in all section. And there are few programs that will require 7, like addiction and prevention, but there is a few category. Then we do not accept gap year students. So if a student have a gap of more than 2 years after 12, we don't accept them for the diploma. And if the student have more than 5 years of work ex or overall gap of more than 5 years, we do not accept or prefer those students for a graduate certificate program. We do not prefer those students who are high on backlogs. So the highest backlog, including reattempt, that we'll accept is 8 for a 4-year degree program. So these are a few things which we take into consideration when we are evaluating the application. And then to understand whether a program is a co-op or non-co-op, student can go to the website and see the program. You asked me one more question, right? Financial aid, I guess.
Yeah, financial aid.
So as I already informed, we are a community college, so we do not offer any scholarship once you are there in your home country. So you can apply for scholarship grant, Dean Scholarship Award only once you are there in Canada and started studying the college physically.
Thank you, Rohan. Anu, we are all aware that HSBC is one of the leading global banks and has a very good reputation. It is imperative for any international student heading to Canada to open a GIC account as well in the city that they are moving to. With the latest developments, how can students open a HSBC bank GIC account for the visa filing? And how fast the GIC certificate can be issued to the student? If you can take us through this thing.
Sure. Thanks, Sakshi. So with HSBC, the GIC and the account opening process is very simple. It's a completely digital journey where student has to, go through. Approximately 7 to 8 hours we take to provide the account details to the client, and they can remit funds into the account. As we are aware that GIC is the mandatory process to file the visa. So approximately not more than 7 to 8 hours will take the open the account.
Thank you so much, Anu. Jay, I would like to understand from you if you can elaborate a little bit on the cost of living in Canada, and to what extent does it vary from city to city?
Definitely, Sakshi, it would vary from city to city, and also type of accommodation, as Jonas rightly described. Generally, the cost of living for international student would be more cost effective we compare amongst other countries like UK, US, or Australia. Again, it would surely depend on the city student is choosing to live in. Like anywhere in the world, living cost in urban regions would be more costlier as compared to regional areas. If we talk about Canada, I guess Toronto and Vancouver are two of the biggest cities, and I would say, cost of living would surely be on higher side as compared to other cities over there. Generally, again, it depends on if you're living on a downtown area, or or if you're living in any of the suburb area. The major cost students are looking for is the accommodation cost. Otherwise, I guess food and transportation is always manageable. It's just the accommodation cost which would vary, quite drastically. If I give you a quick example, I might be wrong. If I talk about Toronto, it can cost approximately around $2,000 per month for a one-bedroom apartment. While if you go for Ottawa, it can cost you around 1,100. If I give you an example of British Columbia, then again Vancouver downtown would cost approximately around 1,900 per month. While if you look like the areas like Christchurch, it can cost just around $800 a month. So it would again depend, what type of accommodation students are choosing. Uh, these are the costs generally, for one bedroom apartment. But generally, if we talk about, student life, then definitely they are always preferring about the sharing accommodation, right? But though the overall view would be, it would depend on city and the area of that particular city. Bigger the city, higher the cost.
Thank you, Jay. Jay, I'm sure all of us would agree that mental health also plays a very significant role in our lives.
Right.
And COVID,
Right.
along with the current travel bans, exam delays, are causing a lot of anxiety and mental health issues in students. So, how is
Right.
your university providing support to the students in this regard?
So we do have certain departments, Sakshi, right, like a counseling service center and also medical clinic. Like if they are feeling unwell, or if they are, having some kind of homesickness, they can always contact counseling department. They can, book an appointment with the counselor, and things can be taken forward from there. We also have a medical clinic, which would be available for free for all UNBC students. Maybe, any of the mental health or support management, they can all be done at our medical clinic. If there is any medical issues, they can contact the team. They'll be able to help them doing medical assessment, treatment of new or any of the existing conditions. So basically, we do have certain departments for each type of issues where they can book the session with the experts, and they will be able to guide them ahead.
Thank you, Jay. Megha, same question to you. If you can elaborate on the support York is providing to students in this regard.
So I think, Sakshi, the points that Jay has covered, most of the Canadian institutions are taking similar measures. At York, we've been organizing, a series of workshops and activities, not only for the students, but even for the faculty and the staff related to mental health and personal well-being. There are also personal counseling sessions that are available to any students who would require these services. Again, like I earlier pointed out, we have been maintaining a constant channel of communication because, these kind of questions and the anxiety, also becomes very visible when you're doing, the Zoom meetings with students and parents. So, kind of like reassuring them about the situation and addressing the kind of queries that they have. Another very interesting thing that York has been doing is that we've also been organizing a lot of interactions between the prospective students and our current students. So there, and it's been done through various platforms. So whether those are like virtual coffee breaks, or through a series of online webinars that are conducted by our senior students, or any kind of drop-in sessions, we're ensuring that the current students are sharing their experience about the online learning with the prospective students. And we've seen that has also gathered a lot of attention from the current students who are looking at pursuing their further education in Canada, because one of the main features of these interactions is to assure the students that online learning does have its own benefits, and speaking more proactively about the benefits and trying to reassure them. The most recent one has been the announcement by most of the Canadian universities. I think that's also brought a lot of relief to some of the students, that we would be adopting a hybrid model wherein most of the Canadian institutions are looking at conducting 30 to 50% of the courses in person and remaining online. At the same time, giving flexibility to the students that, okay, if you don't want to travel to Canada, you can still continue with the remote learning option. So I think constant communication and all these initiatives that we are doing through our different platforms, that's what I would say, in regards to your question.
Thank you, Megha. Rohan, I would like to understand from you, do you think Canadian universities would be returning to in-person teaching model in the upcoming intake? And what are the plans of Georgian College regarding the same?
So as told by my fellow colleagues, there are two types of courses that happens. One is remote, that a student can do, even if they are in Canada, they are doing it remotely. But few programs are in person, which are happening in person. So there is no other way that we can teach those programs remote. But yes, we planned that, we are hoping, though our remote delivery for September is already updated on the website. That means few programs are remote and few of the programs which are in person will happen in the campus. But looking at the planning which is done by the Canada, so I covered it already that the Canadian government is thinking that they will get all the population vaccinated by August and September. So that means they will be very confident to start with the in-person. And we also heard that by August, they will be starting all the schools for the domestic student. So that shows that, this in-person thing will gonna start, and it's already very positive in Canada. We are already very planned. That's why everything is updated for September intake already on the website. And just rightly said by Megha, we are communicating with the student so that student is aware that whether his program is in person, whether it's remote, and when they can travel, right? So the travel ban just happened now. Otherwise, student was able to travel to Canada and do the quarantine. Like, we help the student with the quarantine facility. We have our specific team which is helping the student for the airport arrival and quarantine packages, helping them with making sure, giving them this mental counseling that what exactly happened in quarantine. We are also making them interact with students which have already done with their quarantine, so that they understand that what exactly happened and how it is important to follow rules and regulation when you are at the quarantine. Or is it really important not to stay with your relative and take a program with a college? Because see, we really think that when an international student is coming to our college, it is also the responsibility of the college, because when the pandemic was there, the community was there to support the college. So we are also making sure that students are aware, even if there is an extra cost, they are already aware of all the packages. We have our Instagram live session every week wherein they can ask questions, they can talk on the rules of quarantine or any specific question, even for a meal, or how they will monitor. So we are doing everything to support the student, and we are very, very positive that in case this travel ban is taken off, and we see hopefully, and we see that January intake will be in person. I can't say it for September, because by August, September, Canada plan to vaccinate all the citizens. So I think after that, it will be more confident. Every college and university will be more confident of opening the intake in person category.
Hopefully, Rohan. Thank you so much. Jay, would you like to add something to what Rohan just said, in UNBC's perspective?
Definitely, as far as delivery method is concerned, as I earlier mentioned, that we are ready with all the three options. It would depend on the situation. But as of now, we are declared on campus classes, and we will be making sure, that students are getting all the support right from the application day to the day they are first visiting to the campus. Maybe, filling out all the various forms before flying, maybe filling out all the applications, downloading, installation, everything. And yes, so we are in constant touch with students and making sure, that our on-campus classes are pretty much safe for all the students and all the staff as well.
Thank you, Jay. I would like to ask Anu. Anu, could you please highlight the features of HSBC GIG account? Also, is there a possibility that parents can also open a GIG account, or if it is required or not?
See, the features for the GIC with HSBC is that we are the only bank who is providing a cashback up to $600 to the student if they falls under that criteria. That cashback will be available to the students once they reach Canada and within 3 months. Uh, uh, post activating the account. Second thing is, if parent can open the account, parent cannot open the GIC account, but yes, they can open a joint account with their kid in Canada, and they can make the university fees payment through that account, in which they will be saving a lot of FX charges, when they are transferring from India to Canada.
Thank you, Anu. Now, before we move on to live Q&A, my last question is to you, Saurabh. So the international students are applying, yet they are very apprehensive about the entire COVID situation, about the admissions, the visa, the accommodation, how are the classes going to happen, about social distancing, vaccination, everything. There are a lot of questions in their minds about COVID. So what is your take on this?
I mean, I'll keep it very short because let's try to answer the questions and people who have joined us. I just closing a line. I mean, we don't decide to go to Canada or a country just out of the blue. I mean, this is a decision you've been working for last 2 years. Probably in few cases, their parents are working on this dream from last 10 years, right? So yes, they are uncertain times. Yes, there are it's tough and trying times, but then don't lose hope and dream. We need to go for your dreams, right? I'll be shut here, and let's take more questions, and let's take let the panelists answer a few questions which are very specific to each of you. So Sakshi, if you can just create that, probably that will add more value.
Yeah, sure. One of the potential student is asking Emmy Panchal, where can we find a list of hotels for 3-day quarantine in order to pre-book the same? So Jonas, would you like to take this question?
Sure, yeah. So I would always suggest go to canada.ca. What you would like to do on Google, I can send the link afterwards to you. Maybe you can share with them. It's just canada.ca mandatory hotel quarantine. So they will give you a list of hotels over there. So each hotel will be quoting you based on the daily overnight price. One thing you gotta make sure, those hotels, some of them are providing accommodation to non-traveling other Canadians too. So when you go directly to their website and you book just as a regular Canadian, you will pay maybe $100 or $80, less than what you normally pay as a hotel quarantine. And then once you pay this, and you will feel like I have hotel booked. And when you go to the immigration, they will say, no, you book just a regular hotel stay. We would like you to book a pre-approved whole quarantine package. That is a different one, which will cost you around $300 in Toronto. I expect it to be the same in Vancouver and other areas as well. So what you want to do, you want to go to the government website, canada.ca, and then find the list of quarantine hotels and book through the link from the government website. And yeah, that's how you find them. As I said, I can send you the link, and then you can maybe share with the students afterwards, if you would like.
Thank you, Jonas. The other question is a prospective student, Suraj Datta, is asking, how viable is it for students to join midterm due to visa delays? Also, how are the universities willing to accommodate those students? So, Rohan, can you please take this up?
Yes, so as I already mentioned, the student who is planning to join a remote program, they can, so if there is a visa delay, they don't have to worry. They can start their program online on the basis of the visa submission proof. So if they've already submitted the visa, have not got the final result, they can continue with their remote program for the first year, because earlier it was only the 50% program, but with the new rule, they can continue. And once the travel ban is uplifted, they can, fly to Canada and start the program in person.
Thank you so much, Rohan. One anonymous attendee has asked that what are the kind of costs for the quarantine packages that universities are offering? Megha, would you like to take this up?
So Sakshi, like I mentioned, that York would be taking care of the expenses of the York quarantine, 14-day York, quarantine plan for the students. Now, I think it varies from what I read. I think it would usually cost anywhere between, and that was for the mandatory hotel quarantine along with the meals, anywhere close to about 2,000 to 3,000 Canadian dollars. But I am not very sure in terms of, because that again would vary. We right now don't have a kind of a package. We've just made an announcement that we're going to be taking care of the expenses involved. So on an average, including the accommodation cost and the meals, and I think maybe Rohan and Jay would be in a better position to kind of like answer that because they have packages going on. I know that the hotel quarantine is going to cost anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 Canadian dollars.
Rohan, would you like to answer this one?
Yeah, so as mentioned, we have a specific team for quarantine who handle it because we don't want the student should get all the information from one person and get confused. So we have made a separate team. Our quarantine services are powered by Maple Assist. So student directly deals with them. They send the commitment form and they are also being issued a travel support letter with the quarantine do's and don'ts and the quarantine kit. And the package start from $1,200. So it will depend. So they will get a variety of options wherein they can choose the package, and then if they have any questions on quarantine, as mentioned, we run our Instagram live daily, so they can cross check with the quarantine team, get their doubts clear before booking the quarantine, 14 days.
Thank you, Rohan. One of the student, Naveen Rajlani, wants to know about vaccination in Canada. If student has taken first shot, can he take the second one in Canada? Jonas, would you like to take this up?
Sure, yeah. I mean, in Canada does not require you to be a Canadian resident or a citizen to get vaccine. So anyone in Canada, even if you have a legal status, you can still get the vaccine. So definitely you can get the second vaccine in Canada. I'm not sure about the technical aspects. If you had one different vaccine and if you can get a different vaccine here, I think you would like to take this booster as a same brand of vaccine. That's a question student needs to answer. But Canada is providing right now to anyone, at least in Ontario, who needs to have vaccine. So probably you will get a vaccine in a month after your first initial application. And that application is through a link. I'm going to share the link again on this chat group for Ontario. I won't be able to provide right now for British Columbia or other provinces.
I can add on this because recently my cousin is also going Canada and he was very confused about getting the vaccine. So there are only 4 authorized vaccines right now in Canada. So I don't know, maybe there is a new update. So in India, if a student is traveling, we would recommend that they go for Covishield because that is the only authorized antidote right now that student can get it done here. So according to the CIC website, it says only name of the 4 companies. So make sure at least you're choosing from those 4 companies so that in case you need to get a second dose in Canada, it's available.
Thank you so much, Rohan. There is this another student who wants to know if GIC is mandatory. Ms. Anu, can you please share your thoughts on this?
For the SDS, yes, but I think Megha and Rohan, they are the best person to tell because Megha belongs to a university and Rohan's from college, but yes, GIC is mandatory.
So Anu, I'll just add to what you said. You rightly pointed out if a student is going through the SDS route, then definitely JIC is mandatory. If the student is opting for the non-SDS stream, GIC is not mandatory. However, of late, we've been seeing certain cases because of the recent developments and the announcements by IRCC. We are also seeing some of the students who are applying through the non-SDS route also getting the GIC done. So that's been one observation that I just wanted to share with all of you, and maybe some of you would have come across that. I did personally while connecting to students, because they've been all preparing their paperwork. Some of them have already submitted their applications for study permits. Some of them are still doing that. So that is one observation that came through. But then, of course, when it comes to SDS, GIC becomes mandatory. And like Rohan pointed out, most of the institutions prefer applications through the SDS route. And of course students and parents also do, because the visa success rate is definitely higher. That's again one thing that we've seen from York University. It's not that we have a kind of a rule that you need to apply through the SDS route, but we see most of our students doing that as well.
Thank you, Megha.
Meghna. Thank you. There is this one student who wants to know about the age restrictions for doing MBA programs. He is asking which can be compromised with more than 10 years of work experience.
So as a college, I already told that we do not accept such mature candidate. For specifically for my college, we do not accept and prefer students who have more than 5 years of work ex in total or a gap. So I'm sure a university is a better option, and then they can check individually with the college and a university, because everyone follow their own different rules.
Sakshi, I would just want to add to that, to what Rohan said. It definitely varies from, case to case. When it comes to a university, we definitely see that, like if students have an age gap, we do give them, a chance to kind of like clarify and to kind of like tell us the reason why there's an age gap. And if the respective faculty feels that, yes, you have a strong reason for that particular age gap and it's relevant and you have the right documentation, there have been certain cases wherein the students have been admitted, but it's from case to case basis. It all depends on how valid is the reason and whether there's proper documentation that is required. So as such, there is no age gap limit when it comes to York University and most of the Canadian universities. But then, of course, we definitely look for what is the reason and what kind of paperwork can you produce.
Thank you so much, Megha. There is the student Manu Nithi. He wants.
Okay, so let me pitch in. I guess there's a power cut or some kind. So sorry, I don't know what question she was about to ask, but
I can answer one question.
Yeah, please.
It's about the quarantine. I see many questions about the quarantine. It is
Yeah.
a 14 days quarantine, 3 days in a hotel, 11 days at home. Your first day arrival day is the day one. So for day 14th, you have to wait still at home. And what you will do once you arrive, you will get tested again at the airport. You do not have to do anything for that. You can book in advance, you can register in advance, but you don't have to. If you don't want to complicate yourself, they will guide you. You will not leave the airport without that test. That's called day 2 test. And they will give you a kit, a little box that you have to take a second test on day 8 at home. Once you give day 8 test, they're gonna come and pick up from your home the test, and then you will receive the result in 24 hours. If that day 8 test is negative, you can leave your quarantine after 14 days. Let's say on day 11, you receive negative test result, you're still supposed to stay home and quarantine. There was another question, $1,200 in 3 days once we landed at Vancouver. Once you book the hotel, some hotels charge directly, some hotels charge your credit card once you check into the hotel, depends on the hotels. But as far as I know, you cannot cancel your hotel unless actually, yeah, that it says on the government. This is important as well. Let's say you are not sure if you're gonna be able to take the flight because let's say you had a prior to arrival test, which turned out to be positive, that they will deny you boarding because you need to have a negative test just before you fly. So maybe it might be a smarter idea that you go to the airport, okay, you make sure you are admitted to the boarding. Once you are in the gate, you can book the hotel at that time. This might be a smart option so that you make sure you're not losing that money. And last thing about this, sorry, important. Now, even if you are vaccinated, you still have to do that 3 days mandatory hotel quarantine. but there are some studies and suggestions and advice to the government from some NGOs saying that soon you need to end people to mandatorily quarantine for those who already vaccinated. So what people are saying in very soon, maybe in a month, maybe in 2 months, which is not certain yet, but vaccinated students may not be required to hotel quarantine. So if you have that option, get vaccinated before you arrive.
Yes, thank you, Jonas. That was in detail. Guys, I guess we have surprised the time limit, and I will take I mean, I will ask panel, because there are lots of questions. If any one of you want to leave, or probably if you all say that we can continue, I mean, please suggest, because I mean, I'm sure you have a busy diary.
Maybe we can have a quick questions because I have another meeting, but I don't want, because the the students and the people who have been listening to us for past 1 hour might have a lot of doubts. So you can quickly ask maybe college questions from me,
Yeah.
and so that I can leave.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So, there is one common question I've been reading. I mean, especially, one of you mentioned that, January intake, probably, there will be a physical class, and in September it might not. So, it would be good if you throw light, I mean, I believe everything got its pros and cons, but would love to hear from you guys. Any one of you can pick, and or probably all of you can pick and be specific about what are your thoughts around.
Yeah, so I'll begin, because as I mentioned, it will totally depend from program to program. So I'll maybe name a program so that it's give more clarity to the student. So a student is enrolled for a hospitality program. So that program is in person. That means student cannot do it remotely, either from India or even in Canada. They have to be in campus to do it. Wherein if a student is in a business program or a computer program, which is delivered remote for September, they can start their program from the home country, or they have already reached Canada. Still, they will be doing it from their home as on remote, so that they really understand and they can go to the respective college or university that they have already selected and check their. So a very important information to all the students, mostly in all the school colleges websites, already the COVID update is updated and it is coming on the top on the ticker, so that they can find out what is the exact update about specifically for COVID. And then from there, they can see which program is in person or which program are remote delivered for September intake.
Right. Megha, yeah.
Saurabh, I just want to
Yeah.
add to what Rohan said. So, I think with definitely we've seen like an acceleration in the COVID vaccine rollout in Canada. That's kind of like infused a lot of confidence as well. And, you would see Canadian institutions coming out and, with announcements. So, for example, when it comes to York, we've already made an official announcement that we are confident about delivering 50% of our courses online. At the same time, we are also monitoring the situation really closely. And specifically in certain countries where, we've seen that COVID has had a drastic impact. I think all institutions in Canada are keeping a watch on that. And I think as time would progress, because even like Rohan has clarity about certain programs when it comes to, for example, at York, our course timetables are going to be announced in some time. So I think institutions are also taking a bit of time. And like Jay mentioned earlier on, there's going to be a lot of flexibility. So whether, there are different modes, it would be either hybrid. So you have a combination of in-person, online, it could be completely remote learning. At the same time, giving a lot of flexibility for international students that, okay, if you're not unable to travel, and even if the course is a part of it is getting delivered in person, you can still continue. So what Canada is assuring and what institutions are assuring students that, we're going to be keeping the interest of the student in mind and also being very careful about how the situation is evolving right now. That's all I wanted to add to what Rohan said.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah. Jai, Anu, you want to, or Jonas, you want to add to this? Because I mean, I believe there are lots of people who are asking, for the same, and I guess Anu needs to leave. Anu, any last point you want to make?
So I just want to add, sort of, that HSBC provides very good services, when it comes to GIC. So they can reach to HSBC Canada website, or they can directly reach to me. You can share the number and my email ID with the parents or with the students, and I will be more than happy to help them. Thank you so much, panelists. It was wonderful meeting you guys over here, and have a lovely day. Bye bye.
Thank you,
Take
Anu.
care. Be safe. Bye bye.
And just
Thank
to
you.
add to Anu's claim, University Living is also banking with HSBC and setting his bank account in Canada. So we don't, we don't promote, it's all, this is the webinar which is out of concern and, for the students and community, right? There's nothing paid here, right? So thank you so much, Anu, for taking out time. And yeah, Jay, Rohan, you were saying something. Thank you, Anu. Thank you so much. Yeah, over to you,
Bye
Sakshi.
bye.
Yeah, would you like to add something, or shall we move on to another question? Jay?
I was saying the same thing, most of the pointers have been covered by Megha and Rohan, that it would depend on the program and the situation when time comes. So students just need to wait and watch and, just be ready, whichever the mode is selected by the institution or the government. So just be ready and be prepared for everything, I would say, and do not have the academic gap affect on your career, I would say. Right. And here again, I would say, Saurabh, I would need to leave. I need to, chase another meeting. So again, thank you very much, everyone. If you guys have any questions, Sakshi, you can note it down. I will be more than happy to help you with answers. Right. And definitely looking forward to see you all sometime soon. Thank you.
Jay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
in.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Yeah, bye-bye.
Thanks. Yeah.
Saurabh, do you want me, because we can also see the Q&A up, so I can just quickly go through all the questions related to a college?
Yeah,
so
please.
The first question is by Rahul, and he says that I have 3 years mechanical design engineer, BTech 70%, IELTS 7.5. I've shared his email. He wants to know the further study option. So with Georgian, you have mechatronics, mechanical precision skills, heating and refrigeration. You can go to automotive business. You can also go to project management. For details, I would request you to take the contact details from University Living, and you can connect with us directly. Application fee waiver, we don't give it for India, and it's not on profile to profile basis, but few of our channel partner run the waiver week. So you can apply through them so that you can save your $100 while applying. The next question is that difference between college and a university, which we already covered. And yes, Georgian College offer a lot of specialization in engineering, and we do have few degrees in conjunction with Lakehead University. And then the quarantine question was already answered. Let me just see. So all the quarantine student, in case you still have confusion, so Jonas is the right person to guide you and to give you the right update. And so because he already have taken this 14 days quarantine and already explained you really well. So I'm just skipping those questions so that I can see the other question. For vaccine also, we have already shared the link with University Living. You can take more details from them. Right time to be considering difference between Centennial, Humber, Conestoga College or Georgian College. So all are community college. What will truly depend is your program. So no matter whether you're going to a university or a college, please make sure that you're going to the university and the college website, checking your program in detail. Only if the program curriculum is what you really want to do, that means that is a better college for you. So the first thing is the course curriculum. The second thing is the location. If you have a location preference, please check the location of the campus where the program is offered. And the most important, the faculty profile and the lab facility. So once you have all these 4 things looked at a particular college, it will be easy for you to take a decision which college is better for you. It has also a question about wages. So in Ontario, the wage rate is $14 to $21 in an hour. It depends from profession to profession. Part-time jobs are mostly available in hospitality, warehouses, malls, petrol pump, and food outlet. So maybe a hospitality job wherein there is more tip, have extra pay, but the minimum is $14. Midterm we have already taken. There is one question. So Megha, difference between York and UBC?
Thanks, Rohan. Yeah. So I'll take that, and I was just about to kind of like interrupt and say that because I have another meeting in another 5 minutes. So when it comes to UBC and York, my take on that always has been that, you know, when it comes to Canada, there's no official ranking system, because we get a lot of students coming and asking us that UBC is ranked better than York. Why should we then consider York? I feel every institution has its own USPs. When it comes to York, we've seen that York has, over the period of few years, has become extremely popular, you know, in India, and students are choosing York. Number one, because of the location advantage. Both our campuses are located in Toronto, and we've already discussed during the webinar that Toronto is one of the most preferred cities by international students. Students also choose York because there's a wide range of programs available. We offer more than 200 programs through our different faculties. And the best thing is that there's a lot of flexibility. So most of the programs, you know, you can take up double majors. You can either combine a you know, major and a minor, or you can always combine, you know, two different subject areas together. Career connected education. This was one point that Rohan had picked up, you know, while we were talking about, you know, why Canada. So again, most of the programs at York, you know, come with a practical approach. There's a lot to learn outside the classroom. You know, you have co-op, you have internships, you have placements, and that is where we think that the real learning lies. York is also very much known for its vibrant and diverse, you know, student community. We have more than 10,000 students from 174 countries, which makes us one of the most diverse and multicultural universities in the entire region. So that's again one of the major USP. And last but not the least, we provide excellent student support services and personalized attention, you know, to the students. That's another reason when students are comparing institutions, you know, they end up picking up York. You know, because right from your application and even before your application, you know, we are there connected with you, and, you know, all of us are there as a team to kind of like guide you through the entire process. So that's how I would answer that question. And on that note, you know, I would just again like to take this opportunity to thank University Living, and congratulations for launching the Canadian Knowledge Series. I think it's the right time to do that. It's a very good initiative because a lot of students and a lot of parents have a lot of questions. We are seeing that there are a lot of questions in the chat box and in the Q&A. My contact details are there with the University Living team. So if you want to reach out to us, please do that. And a big thank you to all my fellow panelists. It was a great, engaging conversation. I really enjoyed it. And sincere apologies since we couldn't answer all the questions, but all these questions can be answered offline as well. So with that, thank you, everyone. And thanks, Sakshi. Thanks, Saurabh, you know, for making me and York a part of this initiative.
Thank you so much, Megha. And I would like to inform to all the participants that your questions will be answered. For the questions we did not answer on the live, we will be answering all the questions by email, and we will be connecting you to the university representative. So please do not worry. Jonas, any parting words, any last message that you would like to give?
Sure. I mean, I know there are a lot of parents here. That's my understanding, and seeing the questions. So during COVID, it's a challenging time for everyone, and we are all trying to adapt to new normal. And Canada is taking this virus seriously, the pandemic, and there are measures in place. And while we want your kids to be safe in every way, we also make sure their well-being is also important, their mental health, and they enjoy their time here. So there are lots of restrictions in terms of social activities. We're not able to go to restaurants, bars anymore, or NBA games, even though the NBA and baseball stadiums next to me, I can't, for example. So what we do as an alternative is either playing video games and watching Netflix, or hanging out with our roommates. So I know it is safer to be in a studio maybe, but we don't want to restrict our kids so much. So maybe having a roommate environment might be a little bit helpful when you're looking into options. parents, what we see, would like their kids to stay in a studio, make sure there's no one coming in and out, they're safe, but their well-being is important too. So this is one thing, one important factor I would like them to visit when they are considering what options they would like to opt for. We have seen more, interestingly, we were expecting studios will be more popular among students. To the contrary, studio means like you have the entire apartment to yourself. To the contrary, co-living environment are more attractive to those students who would like to have at least have some social time at their homes.
Thank you so much, Jonas.
Thank you so much for inviting
I
me.
think we are only left with one question. I was just checking because most of the question was on quarantine, and Jonas and I have shared also a few links on the chat window. So only one question is left, which says that is it better for a student to join September or January? So according to me, for a student, it will all depend. If your program is online, you can join on the September intake because there is no risk on even in delay in visa. But if you really are a student who have applied on a conditional offer letter, maybe you have applied on the basis of your 12th predicted score or your last semester mark sheet, and you think that you won't be able to get the result by August, max by July end. So I would say that you go for a January intake so that you are more confident when you apply for a visa.
Thank you so much, Rohan. Any parting words, any piece of advice that you'd like to give?
Yeah, so just be informed, keep doing these fantastic sessions. I'm sure from the session, in the end, if you have many participants staying, that means they got some value out of the session. So I think it's a great opportunity. Thank you very much, everyone, and my other colleagues who have joined in. And stay safe and stay connected. And please make sure that you're checking the update online.
Thank you, Rohan. Saurabh, any last piece of advice you'd like to share?
All good. Let me not hold you back. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Jonas. Thank you, Megha. Thank you, Rohan, and a big thanks to Sakshi and everyone who's joining us.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.